What up, people? About a month ago, I made a video talking about a lot of the games coming to Nintendo Switch the rest of 2024. But because there's so many great games coming this year that are also on other platforms as well, I thought it'd be fun to add some of those games to an all-in-one video highlighting some of the top games that should be on your radar the rest of the year. But real quick, if you're new to the channel, I make videos on single-player games, and while I typically focus on RPGs, I do cover other genres as well. If that type of content interests you and you end up enjoying this video, consider subscribing or just hitting the like button to help spread this video around. And with that, let's get started. The first game I wanted to talk about was supposed to be my Nintendo Switch video, and that's the Plucky Squire. This game was first announced at a Nintendo Direct 2 years ago, so I kind of forgot it existed, which is why it wasn't in my previous video. But I've been looking forward to this game since the very first announcement trailer. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of unique art styles, and that's what interests me the most about this game. The way you can switch from 3D to 2D kind of reminds me of A Link Between Worlds, which I'm sure was a big influence with this game. While being action focused, this seems like a game that's perfect to play on a Switch or a Steam Deck while relaxing in bed or on your couch. It'll be releasing on all platforms, but as of today, there isn't a set release date, but I heard that should be announced soon. And despite me forgetting all about it, the Plucky Squire is 100% a day one buy for me, without question. Speaking of day one buys, the next game I want to talk about is The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. It's hard to put into words how much of a fan I was of the remake of Link's Awakening. That art style is up there with some of the best I've ever seen. It really feels like you're playing a 15-hour playthrough with all of your toys. I never would have guessed we would be getting another game with that art style, but I'm really glad we are. I also wasn't expecting to play as Zelda, so that was a nice surprise. Plus we got gameplay. Instead of a sword and shield with Link, Zelda will be using a staff that lets her copy and use objects and also enemies to fight, explore, and solve puzzles. This game really seems like this is going to be leaning into the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom style of just allowing players to use the Echo ability to figure things out in their own way, and I love that. I've said many times on this channel that exploration is one of, if not my favorite things in games, and I hope this game makes that a high priority. But anyway, The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom is releasing September 26th. Sticking with exclusives, next up is Astrobot. Everything shown during that State of Play trailer was great. The gameplay, the bright colors, the music, and all the PlayStation Easter eggs sprinkled throughout the trailer. I loved every second of it. I've been a fan of platformers ever since I was a kid. Kirby, Mario, and Crash Bandicoot were some of my favorites, with Sonic slightly trailing behind, which is kind of ironic. And while Kirby was far and away my favorite of the group, Crash Bandicoot was kind of what got me into PlayStation in the first place. I've always saw Crash as the PlayStation mascot, so seeing the franchise go to other consoles and PlayStation going away from developing platformers really bummed me out. Ratchet & Clank is cool, but it wasn't Crash. And that's why Astrobot is a big deal to me for multiple reasons. Not only are 3D platformers some of my favorite games to play, but I'm hoping that Astrobot becomes successful so PlayStation starts prioritizing these more lighthearted gameplay focused exclusives more. Don't get me wrong, when it comes to narrative focused games and action adventure open world RPGs, I think PlayStation is still the best at that, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't want a little more variety from their first party lineup. So hopefully Astrobot hits it out of the park when it comes out on September 6th for the PS5. Next we have Mario & Luigi Brothership. I've never actually played one of the Mario & Luigi games before. I was going to buy some for my 3DS before the eShop closed, but by that time I had already spent around $300 on games and I couldn't justify spending any more. By the way, I made a couple videos of some must-buy games for the 3DS if you're still out there looking, just letting you know. When I was watching the Nintendo Direct, a Mario & Luigi game wasn't even on my radar, but it ended up being one of the games I'm looking forward to the most. I'm a big fan of turn-based RPGs, so I'm always down to play another one, especially one that prioritizes silliness. Also, I love the art design and I really like how expressive Mario and Luigi look in cutscenes and also their animations during combat. There's this Looney Tunes 90s cartoon vibe the game has that I very much appreciate. If you own a Nintendo Switch, you should definitely keep this game in your sights this year. Next game on the list is Ys 10 Nordics. Technically this game is already out, but its North America release is coming out in the fall of this year. I knew nothing about this franchise before I saw that 44-second announcement trailer, and after I saw it, all I thought was, this game looks cool as hell. It was super flashy and the combat looked fun and everything looked colorful and the music in the trailer was really good too. I was almost going to buy Ys 8 because that's what a lot of people recommended newcomers start with, but I eventually decided to just start with the newest one since I heard I won't be missing anything story wise. After playing Final Fantasy Rebirth for over 2 months earlier this year, I needed a little break from fast paced action RPGs. Thankfully by the time this comes out, I should be ready to go again. Next up is Visions of Mana. Just like the Ys series, this will be the first Mana game that I ever play. I've talked about it in a couple of videos on my channel, so my excitement is about as high as it can get. The combat looks fun, and for what I've seen so far, none of the characters looks too similar playstyle wise. This JRPG is going to be using a 3-person combat system, and if it feels anything like the combat in Rebirth, I'll be so happy. I really do miss that combat though, for real. Also, the game is just nice to look at. The colors of the characters and the environment surrounding them just pops out at you. When I first played Tales of Arise, that was the first game of the franchise, and I liked it so much I started looking into other games in the series, such as Tales of Berseria and Tales of the Abyss. Visions of Mana seems like the perfect place for newcomers to enter the series, and while I'm not sure I like it just as much as Arise, it's shaping up to be one of my favorites of the year, but we'll see. Next, we have a game I know a lot of RPG fans are waiting for, and that's the remakes of the first 3 Dragon Quest games. They're all getting the HD 2D coat of paint that you're used to seeing by now with Octopath Traveler, Eiyuden Chronicles, Triangle Strategy, etc. I'm a major fan of this art style, and I'm really glad it's being used so often, especially with RPGs. My only experience with Dragon Quest is playing a lot of 11 and owning I believe Dragon Quest 8 on my 3DS. However, even with that small bit of time with the franchise, I've still become a big fan, and a lot of that is due to the monster designs. I personally think Dragon Quest has some of the best monster designs of any RPG I could think of, and it'll be cool to see them in these 3 games that started everything off. Speaking of starting it off, I heard that the older Dragon Quest trilogy has some really good stories in it. Is that true? If you're a Dragon Quest fan, let me know. It's funny that the story of the trilogy starts with the 3rd one, but I'll 100% be picking it up sometime this year, but probably not when it releases on November 14th. Next game on the list is probably one you might not know is coming out, and that's SteamWorld Heist 2. If you've seen content from me before, you may have heard me talk about this first SteamWorld Heist game, most likely in one of the Hidden Gems videos for Nintendo Switch. SteamWorld Heist is one of my favorite indie games ever, and I'm so happy it's getting another game. Compared to the first game, they seem to really be leaning more into the RPG aspect this time around, which I'm obviously a fan of. Things like special abilities, job classes, and character builds will all be in the game. It'll be fun to see how much they impact the strategies going into missions. Not only did SteamWorld Heist get me into strategy games like Fire Emblem, it was one of the few games early on that really made me appreciate what indie games had to offer. I never thought I'd be getting a sequel to this game, but here we are, and this will be a day 1 purchase when it releases on August 8th. This next game will be kind of quick because it isn't a full game yet, and that's Path of Exile 2. Like a lot of games on this list, I've never played the first Path of Exile. And the reason I'm looking forward to this game is because I've been dabbling a little bit with Diablo 4 on Game Pass, and so far it's pretty solid. Outside of Hades, I don't play a lot of top-down action games, so Diablo was kind of a breath of fresh air. Then I randomly saw a trailer for Path of Exile 2, and it looked just like a more fun Diablo. I don't know if that's blasphemy to say or not, but hey, it's how I feel. The more trailers I watch of the combat and the different classes, the more excited I get. I don't know how much Path of Exile cares about their story, but hopefully they will for the sequel. Early access is supposed to come out later this year, and I just recently signed up for a closed beta for the game. I'm not sure yet whether I want to play this on my PS5 or PC, but I'm kind of leaning more towards PC for my Steam Deck, but hopefully there'll be cross-save since it's free to play. Before we get to the last game, here are some honorable mentions that just didn't make the cut. The last game I want to talk to you guys about today is Metaphor ReFantazio. Over the years, I've become a huge fan of Atlus and all the games they've put out. Persona 5 is one of my all-time favorite games, and I'm currently playing SMT5 Vengeance, which is shaping up to be one of my favorite games of the year. And when I saw trailers for Metaphor, it felt more of the same, but in a good way. It seems to be still keeping that classic turn-based combat that I love, while also seemingly incorporating some real-time action as well. Also, just like almost all Atlus games, the game is really stylish and beautifully designed. Everything down to the menu screen is just really nice to look at, and you can tell the developers really want their games to be seen as eye candy. I've been sold on this game for a while to the point where I've actually been avoiding looking at any more trailers that's been released. Nothing they show is going to make me more excited for the game, so I kind of want to leave some stuff to be excited about, you know? But anyway, Metaphor ReFantazio is set to release on October 11th, and just like so many others, I'll be right there day 1 to play it. Now, I really want to hear from you guys. What games are you looking forward to the rest of the year? Or are you just getting through your backlog? Let me know in the comments. If you're interested in watching more content from me, click one of the links on the screen. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with the channel. Later.